Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking exactly why movies captivate us so deeply. Have you ever stopped to think about the bizarre contradiction at the very heart of literally every single film? On one hand, producing a motion picture is this massive, incredibly expensive industrial machine. But on the other hand, it's widely recognized as a truly unique, intensely powerful art form. Basically, every film you've ever seen is the child of a turbulent, kind of chaotic marriage between business people looking at the bottom line and artists chasing a vision. But that tension doesn't just stop with the creators, right? It extends right down into our seats. To see what I mean, let's look at a really fascinating concept from New York Times critic A.O. Scott. He hit the nail on the head when he identified the essential paradox of the movie-going experience. Think about it. On one side, we have this highly cohesive social ritual. You buy a ticket, you stand in line, you share this giant room and all the laughs and gasps with 100 total strangers. But then, on the flip side, the actual experience of watching the film play out is a radically solitary, individualist reverie. It's actually a lot like reading a novel completely alone in your room. I absolutely love how Scott puts it here. He says film splices together individualism and mass culture, the line at the box office and the solitary dreaming in the dark. It's almost like a bizarre double feature programmed by someone with a really strange sense of humor. We are fully engaging in mass culture, yet our connection to what's happening on the screen is intensely personal. We sit in a pitch-black room surrounded by strangers just to experience a completely solitary dream. Honestly, it's the ultimate modern cultural activity. Which brings us to our first major concept, film as a synthesis of arts, borrowing the absolute best of every medium. To really understand why film can pull off this psychological magic trick, we have to look closely at its DNA. Film didn't just invent a brand new language out of thin air. It's essentially a magnificent woven fabric of all the other major art forms that came before it. It stole the very best tricks from every other medium. From painting and photography, it takes the subtle interplay of light, shadow, line, and texture. From sculpture, it grabs the manipulation of three-dimensional space. From dance and music, it borrows rhythm and the poetry of movement. Like drama, it communicates through visual action and verbal dialogue. And finally, and this is huge, like the novel, film has this incredible, almost godlike ability to expand or compress time and space. It travels back and forth freely across wide borders. It is, without a doubt, the ultimate composite art form. But that leads us directly to the power of motion, which is totally film's unique superpower. So, despite all those amazing similarities to traditional arts, you might be wondering what actually sets film apart. If it's just a mashup of painting, drama, and literature, why does it feel so entirely different to experience? Well, the answer lies in this concept of continuous flow. Film possesses a free, constant motion. Think about a beautiful painting or a stunning marble sculpture. They are totally static, right? They're frozen in time. But the continuous interplay of sight, sound, and motion allows film to completely transcend those static limitations. It provides an unbroken flow that blurs transitions without ever breaking the unity of the story. It is literally communicating with you on multiple sensory levels all at once. And this continuous flow is exactly where it separates itself from literature, too. When you read a novel or a poem, it has to rely on abstract symbols, meaning your brain has to look at literal letters printed on a page and decode them into a mental image. But film? Film bypasses that whole translation process. It hits us directly with concrete realities. You don't have to read the word rain and try to imagine it. You just see the water falling, you hear it hitting the pavement, and you feel the mood instantly. Which naturally opens up an infinite canvas, giving the medium a truly boundless scope and scale. What's so wild about this boundless scope is the sheer, unlimited nature of what a camera can actually capture. Because film operates with this continuous flow of concrete images, there is quite literally no limit to its canvas. Just listen to this beautifully poetic description from our source material about the reach of the camera. From the poles to the equator, from the Grand Canyon to the minutest flaw in a piece of steel, from the whistling flight of a bullet to the slow growth of a flower, from the flicker of thought across an almost impassive face to the frenzied ravings of a madman. There is absolutely no point in space, no degree of magnitude, and no speed of movement that is out of bounds for film. And honestly, it's not just about what the camera captures, but how it captures it. The filmmaker's canvas is infinitely flexible. A film's mood can shift from a quiet, lyrical moment to a massive, sweeping epic in a heartbeat. Its point of view can be purely objective, like a fly on the wall, or intensely, almost uncomfortably subjective, throwing you right inside a character's chaotic mind. It can skim the surface of pure sensual thrills or dive deep into profound philosophical realities. And time? Time is totally malleable. A film can compress an entire century into a 3-minute montage or stretch a few terrifying seconds of suspense into what feels like absolute hours. All of this brings us to the ultimate endgame, the pursuit of reality and erasing the border between art and nature. So why use all these borrowed art forms, this continuous motion, and this infinite canvas? It's all in service of one overwhelming objective, creating a here-and-now excitement that completely immerses you, effectively erasing the border between art and the real world. Take Ang Lee's magnificent film Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, for example. In it, this continuous stream of sight and sound does something truly incredible. It allows pure fantasy to take on the shape and the emotional weight of reality. Logically, we know people can't physically float across rooftops or run on water. But in that moment, enveloped in the dark theater, our brains completely accept the texture and the emotion of that martial arts poetry as totally undeniably real. In fact, if you step back and look at the entire technological history of film, it's essentially just an active, relentless pursuit of exactly this kind of realism. It's evolved step by step toward total immersion. We started with simple drawings, right? Then moved to photographs, then projected images. Boom, by the 1920s, we added sound. In the 30s, vibrant color. By the 1950s, we were expanding our peripheral vision with widescreen formats and even experimenting with 3D. Every single technological leap was explicitly designed to make the illusion indistinguishable from the natural world. And filmmakers haven't just stopped at sight and sound. Over the years, there have been genuine, if a bit wacky, attempts to add the sense of smell to the experience by actually pumping fragrances directly into the theater. It actually sounds a lot like the futuristic tactile sensations predicted in Aldous Huxley's brilliant novel Brave New World. Huxley wrote about a future theater concept he called the feelies. The idea was that a complex electrical setup at each seat would let you physically feel what was happening on screen, like perfectly feeling every single hair on a bearskin rug during a scene. Now, okay, Huxley's feelies haven't quite become a mainstream reality just yet, but our collective pursuit of sensory overload absolutely has. Immersive, large-screen formats like Cinerama back in the day and IMAX today, along with computerized virtual reality, have managed to intensify our experience to a really remarkable degree. By creating images that are completely larger than life, films can sometimes feel even more real than actual reality itself. To show you just how intensely effective these immersive techniques can be, consider this hilarious cartoon published way back in 1952, right after the release of the first Cinerama film. The movie featured this famous, thrilling roller coaster sequence. The cartoon shows a man simply trying to grope his way across a row of theater seats to sit down, but the illusion on that giant curved screen is so incredibly intense that another patron in the audience grabs his arm in an absolute panic and screams, "Sit down, you fool! You'll have us all killed!" I mean, that perfectly captures the power of the medium, doesn't it? And what's so amazing is that this 1952 Cinerama panic perfectly mirrors the legends of the very first film audiences decades prior. When early silent film patrons saw a simple, black-and-white projected image of a train swiftly entering a station, they notoriously reacted with real physical nervousness. They were genuinely afraid the train was going to barrel right out of the screen and into the theater. The technology changes, but the goal, tricking the human brain into accepting the illusion as reality, remains exactly the same. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into film's incredible anatomy, I want to leave you with this thought to end our explainer. If simple black and white projections of a train and the curved screens of the 1950s could so completely override human senses and make audiences scream in genuine terror, what awesome, completely reality-bending delights await us next? As CGI and virtual reality continue to evolve at lightning speed in the coming decades, how far will the illusion really go? Thanks so much for joining me, and keep your eyes wide open the next time you step into the dark.